Hello, this is the Brooks B17 and it's the standard B17. These saddles have been made by Brooks in England since the 1890s. The company actually started in 1866 and have been making saddles themselves since 1882. I'm going to tell you about it and tell you about how to look after it. So if I just give you a description of the saddle first, you'll see that it's a fairly tight, strong leather. If you hear it, you can see how hard it is. This is a new saddle that's been ridden for about 40 miles. Other features of it include the holes for ventilation. You'll see here there's an embossed Brooks logo that's been like that since the 1950s. And this has got the standard steel rivets. Underneath you'll see standard steel rails. Each saddle comes with its own unique identification code. Mine's here. And this device here is to tension the leather. Now, when doing this, you need to be really careful, because if you're not and you over tension it, the leather can tear and pull off the rivets. So if it does start to sag after excessive usage, then you just tighten this a fraction at a time to take up any slack. The other feature on the back, which is fairly standard, are these bag loops, so you can attach a bag, and you'll see this Brooks logo on the back of all their saddles. These saddles come in various types. As I say, this is the B17. There are many other types. Some of them are sprung, such as the Flyer. Some are not. But the B17 itself comes in various variations. So you can change the colour, you can change the rivets, you can change the width. If you want to, you can change the rails, and if you've got the money, you can have titanium rails to lose a bit of the weight. But generally people think that the added weight of these saddles is worth it for the added comfort. Most people say that it takes somewhere between 100 and 1,000 miles to break them in. I've only done 40 on this, and I've got to say that so far I've got to say it's not really that comfortable, but I'm going to stick with it and we'll see where we get to over the next month or two, and I'm pretty confident that with plenty of wear it's going to mould to the shape of me and will last me a lifetime. The other thing that you need really to consider when buying these is how you're going to help break it in. So Brooks themselves sell a product called Proof Hide. It comes in these tiny little tins and it's basically made of tallow, cod oil, some waxes like paraffin and beeswax, and is scented with citronella. It's not cheap, and some people recommend a cheaper alternative using saddle soap. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Personally, I think if you've spent the money on the saddle, you might as well buy the product itself and treat it as it's meant to be. It only takes a tiny amount to rub in. Basically, you can rub it in with a cloth or just with your hands. In the first few months of owning and using, you're meant to do this every so often, every few weeks or so. After that, once it's broken in, it's probably a job to do once every 6 months. The other thing that this helps with is waterproofing. The saddle itself is not waterproof, so you've got to be fairly careful about it. This adds to waterproof. Now, Brooks recommend that you really only need to treat the top of the surface with Proof Hide and not necessarily the bottom, unless you're riding the bike without mud guards. Me, because I'm very cautious, I've treated it underneath as well. So it's fairly easy to look after, fairly easy to maintain. The company themselves have been making these saddles, as I say, since the 1890s in Birmingham in England, but the company is now owned by an Italian company that make saddles, which is Selle Royal, a fairly major saddle producer, and they're still bought and sent all over the world, and people use them all the time. People say effectively it's the Rolls Royce of saddles. The only other things that really to tell you about is in terms of maintenance, you can buy all the bits and pieces that you might need. If you need any new nuts or rails or rivets, you can buy those off the website from Brooks, and they also recommend that you register your saddle, so that if you do have any warranty issues, that they know when and where you bought it. The only thing you need to do is obviously know the code underneath, so you can register that as well. In terms of the maintenance kit that you can buy for it, as I say, it comes with a proof hide. The other thing it comes with is a tensioning spanner, so you can adjust the nose of it. Comes with a maintenance booklet, and the saddle itself comes with a rain cover. So if you're going to store it outside in the rain, you really want to be covering it over. There's no real issue about sweat or anything like that, because it's a natural breathable product. It'll cope with any issues like that, but if it's stood outside in the rain for any length of time, you want to be using the cover. That's it really. It's a fantastic saddle. I'm pretty confident it's going to last me a lifetime, and once it's broken in, I'm sure it's going to be more comfortable than any plastic or artificial material saddle. Thanks for listening.